All right, we've got a sloppy mess coming our way on Thursday. Hi, everyone. It's Weather for Weather Geeks on this Wednesday evening. It's 21 News. Chief Meteorologist, Chief Weather Geek, Eric Wilhelm here. We're going to break down in a lot of detail here what you can expect for Thursday and Thursday night. But first, a real quick review of where we've been through almost the first half of November. It's been much like October, kind of a split decision. October started very warm, ended cold. November started warmer than average, and now we have had a long stretch of colder than average temperatures through the last 6 or 7 days. So for almost the first half of the month, we'll reach the halfway point tomorrow. We're getting close to 4 degrees below average, and this should end up as the coldest first half of November since 2012. So about 6 years since we've had a first half of November that has been this chilly. And the chilly weather, of course, is going to be here tomorrow, and that's what's going to aid in the wintry precipitation. And the radar mosaic this evening as of about 7:11 shows the storm system spinning across the Memphis, Tennessee area. Moisture continues streaming to the north. It's starting to run into the colder air in Kentucky, and some snow and some sleet and freezing rain is breaking out. Winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings even for parts of the Mississippi Valley this evening. St. Louis could have a record November snowfall overnight tonight, and winter weather advisories all the way down into northern Mississippi. This evening, also some winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories down into the mountains of North Carolina. Now closer to home, the winter storm warnings crawl up the spine of the Appalachians through West Virginia, into Pennsylvania as well. This is going to be tough going. We're going to have some tricky travel in spots tomorrow, but places such as Bellefonte, State College, Altoona, Johnstown, Clearfield, DuBois, Williamsport, kind of that heart of PA, they're going to have a lot worse. So that's going to be a real rough trip on 80 once you get east of, say, DuBois tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night, and across the PA Turnpike. That's going to be no fun at all because they've got two problems over here. They're going to get some ice, and then they're going to get their thump of snow. I'll show you the snow forecast in just a second. All right, let's break down our timing for the precipitation around here. Model trends over the last few hours. Our hourly high-res models that give us frequent updates have been kind of cluing in on the idea that this may start as a period of wet snow tomorrow morning. We've been talking about this coming in as sleet and freezing rain, but the cooling effect of the precipitation falling into drier air near the lower levels of the atmosphere, we call that evaporative cooling, and that evaporation cools the air mass enough that we could see some wet snow for a time, and maybe even a quick coating in some spots of the snow before we see a transition over to kind of a mixed bag of sleet and freezing rain. And then it looks a little more likely, based on some of the latest modeling, that we'll see a transition over to just plain old rain in some spots in the afternoon. It's going to be a close call. I think the best chance of seeing just plain rain with temperatures getting up to 33 or 34 will be from roughly Youngstown south and west. Over in Mercer County, you might hang on to the cold air a little bit longer, and so you might have a more prolonged period of that mixed bag of snow, sleet, freezing rain. Whatever mix and rain is out there as we go past sunset into the early evening is likely to then transition over into some wet snow. Now, yes, we'll probably see some sleet and some freezing rain, but that freezing rain will be falling into air that's like 31, 32, and that'll limit the impacts on treated roads, on major roads that tend to be salted pretty well. There could still certainly be some issues on overpasses and bridges and on sidewalks and things that aren't treated, but the ice problems are going to be much higher out to the east. Impactful ice, generally we think of that as 1/10 of an inch worth of accretion or more, and especially once you get up to 1/4 of an inch or more. And notice what's going to happen over here east of Pittsburgh. I mean, your odds of getting 1/4 of an inch worth of ice accretion really go up into the mountainous terrain. This gets to be really hilly terrain, of course, through here, and that's right along the PA Turnpike. And so they could have problems with the ice accretion, then snow on top of that. Coming up tomorrow into tomorrow night. Now, closer to home, again, I'm not expecting huge impacts. I don't want to poo-poo this too much, though. If you're going to be doing some traveling tomorrow, starting around mid-morning and taking us into the afternoon, be on the lookout for some localized slick spots, especially on side streets that tend not to be treated as often, on those bridges and overpasses, which tend to be colder, and just allow for a little extra travel time and be a little extra aware if you're going to be out and about traveling. I'm not expecting, again, huge impacts, but some impacts, yes. It's a good reminder of why we see a variety of precipitation types sometimes as we get into the cold weather season. A little forensic analysis here. Rain occurs when the entire column of air from the ground on up to the cloud base is above freezing. When you get a layer of above freezing air on top of a layer of sub-freezing air, that'll either be freezing rain or sleet. It depends on how thick that 32 degree plus layer is. If it's real thick, if the below freezing air is only right down near the ground, then it's going to fall as rain. It's going to fall as liquid and then freeze on contact. If the warm layer, and I say warm, I put quotes around that because what I mean by warm is above 32. If that layer is shallower, then those liquid, those raindrops have time to refreeze before hitting the ground, but they don't refreeze into snowflakes. They refreeze into little ice pellets, and that's sleet. Sleet is preferable to freezing rain when it comes to travel. Sleet can actually accumulate. You can get a little, it can whiten the ground, but generally sleet does not cause as much in the way of slick conditions as freezing rain does on surfaces. And then when the entire column of air is below 32, then you just get plain old snow. That'll occur tomorrow night. In the meantime, be careful out there. Again, tomorrow afternoon. If you happen to be traveling and going over bridges in particular, just keep your steering wheel straight if you find yourself skidding a little bit. Don't slam on the brakes if you find yourself skidding a bit. It's never a good idea to slam on your brakes. Take your foot off the accelerator to slow down, but never slam on your brakes if you find yourself skidding. The reason why bridges tend to be colder than other surfaces, well, that cold air wraps around bridges and kind of keeps the cold air locked into the entire structure. So that's oftentimes why, even if air temperatures are up to 34 or 35 or even 36, some bridges that surface might still be at 31 or 32. And that's why a lot of times you see most of our accidents on bridges, such as the bridge on like the 7-Eleven connector here in Youngstown. That's a very frequent trouble spot, even if the roads in the rest of the area aren't really that bad at all. So again, caution is advised tomorrow. All right, so our mixed precipitation and rain changes back over to wet snow tomorrow evening. The snow will taper off from west to east pretty quickly after midnight. It's not going to be snowing in most spots by 6, 7, 8 in the morning on Friday. It'll be long gone. Maybe a flurry or even a touch of drizzle, but that'll be about it. The accumulating snow will occur in kind of a thump, I think, for a few hours from mid-evening through midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, and then it's done. So that may limit the school adjustments coming our way Friday morning. I can't rule out some 2-hour delays. I'll say this often as we get into the winter season. Not my call, not my decision. We're not consulted on these things. Your guess is as good as mine sometimes when it comes to adjustments. I will say, though, that the accumulating snow will end way before the buses start running Friday morning. Could we see some accumulations? Yes, but I suspect roads are going to be pretty much okay by Friday morning. By the weekend, we're just in a cloudy pattern. Maybe there's a stray flurry late in the day Saturday into Sunday. Snowfall accumulations, this is for tomorrow into Friday. The bulk of our accumulations here locally would occur tomorrow night. Again, bigger problems once you're east of I-79 over into Pennsylvania. Again, especially from Du Bois on east towards Williamsport State College and then up towards the southern tier of New York. Closer to home, I think a general 1, 2, 3 inches is pretty likely. Again, this is tomorrow night, not during the day tomorrow night. If someone sees a little more than 3, it might be a little more likely in the northeastern corner of Mercer County. But I think 3 is kind of the ceiling on this accumulation-wise in most of our television viewing area. So impacts in the timing, just kind of reviewing a lot of the graphics I just showed you. The snow, if we get a little thump of snow tomorrow morning before the mixed precip, I doubt it's all that impactful. That's something to watch out for. Snow is going to be a little more impactful, I think, tomorrow night. And then mixed precipitation is primarily a problem midday, early afternoon tomorrow. And so, this isn't going to be a crippling situation. This is not an ice storm. We're going to have much worse days this winter. But it bears watching and bears, just using a little extra caution for your Thursday commute. All right, snow in November, of course, not unusual at all. It is our 5th snowiest month of the year, behind December, January, February, and March. It's typically snowier than April and, of course, snowier than October. So we typically see about 9% of our annual snowfall during the month of November. Real quick look at the longer range. That warm-up I've been talking about, I've been, over the last couple of days, been saying, hey, it doesn't look quite as warm now, that warm-up for Thanksgiving weekend. And, boy, we're about to pull the plug on any sort of sustained warmth or sustained mild weather, I should say, in the longer range. It's looking cooler and cooler to wrap up November and start December. So this is the 8 to 14 day outlook. showing decent odds of a continuation of the cooler than average trends. I do think Thanksgiving itself is not a very cold day. It's probably going to be in the 40s, actually fairly typical for Thanksgiving. It's better than the 30s, but it's also not going to be quite as mild that weekend as it looked like it would be when we were talking about the longer range late last week. Look for more updates from me on the Storm Tracker 21 app on social media as well throughout the course of this evening. Emily will have you covered tomorrow morning on WFMJ Today. She'll be showing you radars and our web cameras and everything else that is relevant for your Thursday morning commute. So again, stay safe out there tomorrow. Not a huge thing, but one of our more impactful weather days of the cold weather season so far.